Hey friends, and welcome to Sleepy Time Tales. I'm Alex, and tonight, we're going to explore the mystical village of Maplewood. It's a place where every cup of cider holds a story of warmth, friendship, and the gentle magic of autumn. Tonight, we'll follow the spirit of Elara, a guardian of the harvest who gifts the village with her blessings. We'll journey to the heart tree, the oldest tree in the valley, where tales of gratitude and unity come to life. And finally, we'll step into the legendary Golden Orchard, a hidden grove brimming with ancient wisdom, where only those with pure hearts can find its treasures. So, get cozy, let the soft glow of these magical tales surround you, and drift off with the spirit of Maplewood as we share an evening of enchantment, peace, and gratitude. In a secluded valley surrounded by hills cloaked in gold, red, and orange each autumn, stood the village of Maplewood. Known for its apple cider, this small village hid a warm secret within each steaming mug, a tale of magic, community, and the kindness of nature itself. Villagers knew that each sip was more than a drink, it was a connection to their past, a part of the magic that shaped their lives. And each fall, the people of Maplewood gathered to share the cozy tale behind their famous cider, a story filled with love, gratitude, and the warmth of autumn. Long, long ago, before Maplewood was a village and the valley was nothing but dense forest, few people lived here. The valley was a secret place, known only to a few families of hunters and gatherers who lived humbly, gathering roots, berries, and herbs from the land. One year, as the leaves began to change and the air grew crisp, a mysterious figure appeared at dusk, her presence as soft as the mist that settled over the valley. Her name was Elara, a spirit of the harvest, and she roamed from land to land, blessing each village with her gift of abundance, gratitude, and the quiet magic of autumn. Elara was unlike any mortal. She wore a cloak woven from golden leaves that shimmered like fire in the sunlight, and her hair cascaded in waves the color of autumn wood. She spoke the language of trees and rivers, and wherever she walked, plants seemed to bloom, and the air felt thick with warmth and magic. One crisp evening, Elara climbed a hill on the edge of the valley and found herself drawn to a great apple tree. It stood alone, its branches stretching proudly, heavy with red apples that glowed like embers in the setting sun. This was no ordinary apple tree. The villagers had long known it as the heart tree, a tree older than any memory, rooted deep in the soil of the valley. Elara sensed a strong magic within it, a pulse of warmth and life as ancient as the earth itself. She touched its bark, rough yet warm beneath her fingers, and felt a rush of energy, as though she had dipped her hands into a stream of sunlight. She knew this tree was special, a guardian of the valley, and she whispered her gratitude, asking for a gift. At her words, a single apple fell from the highest branch into her hands. This apple was no ordinary fruit, it was deeper in color, richer in scent, as if it held all the warmth and sweetness of the autumn season within its skin. Elara took a bite, and flavors of honey, sunlight, and the crisp chill of fall washed over her. Inspired, she decided to create a drink that would capture the magic of this apple, a gift for the people of the valley. Gathering more apples, Elara set about making her potion. She added pure water from a nearby brook, a touch of wild honey, and spices she collected from the forest. As the mixture simmered over a small fire, she whispered blessings of warmth, peace, and friendship into it. The cider that emerged was fragrant, golden, and as comforting as a warm embrace. It held a bit of her magic, a promise of love and abundance, and she was eager to share it with the people of the valley. As twilight settled over the valley, Elara visited each small home, offering each family a mug of cider. The first to taste it was Tobias, a young farmer who had worked from dawn to dusk in his fields, gathering the last of the pumpkins and corn before the frost. When he took a sip, he felt a warmth that filled his body and lifted his spirit, as though he were sitting by a fire with friends. "It tastes like home," he murmured, surprised by how this simple drink could bring such comfort and peace. Elara smiled. "It's a gift from the heart tree, a sip of autumn itself." News of Elara's gift spread quickly, and soon, all the families of the valley gathered around her, each holding a mug of warm cider. They drank together, laughing and telling stories as the fire crackled. For the first time, people who had rarely met came together, bonded by the cider's warmth and magic. They stayed up late, sharing tales of the harvest, their dreams, and their gratitude for each other. Elara watched them with quiet joy, knowing that this was the true magic of autumn, the way it brought people together. Before she left, Elara made them a promise. "The heart tree will give its apples each year, as long as you care for this valley and its trees," she told them. With that, she vanished into the forest, her cloak of golden leaves shimmering one last time in the moonlight. As the years passed, the people in the valley honored Elara's memory by gathering apples from the heart tree each autumn. The tree became a symbol of gratitude and unity, and the cider they made from its fruit became an important part of their lives. More families came to live in the valley, drawn by tales of the heart tree and its cider, and soon the valley was filled with cottages, fields, and gardens. The villagers named their new home Maplewood, after the majestic maples that painted the hills with shades of scarlet and gold. They worked together to build homes, plant orchards, and cultivate the land. And each autumn, as the air turned crisp and the leaves began to fall, they gathered at the heart tree to make cider, honoring Elara's gift with songs, stories, and whispered words of thanks. As time went on, the tradition grew. The cider-making season became a village event, a time of celebration and thanksgiving. Each family would bring baskets of apples to the heart tree, and together they would press the fruit, stirring the cider over a great fire in the town square. They added their own touches, spices, honey, or sometimes a hint of caramel, and each batch was unique, filled with the flavors of the season and the memories of the past. But one part of the tradition never changed. Before tasting the cider, each person would take a turn stirring the pot, whispering a single word, "Thanks." As the village of Maplewood grew, so did the cider-making season. Eventually, the villagers decided to turn their autumn gathering into an official celebration. They called it the Cider Festival, a time for families to come together, give thanks, and enjoy the bounty of the harvest. People from neighboring towns began to visit Maplewood, drawn by the stories of the heart tree and the warmth of the cider. During the festival, the village square was filled with stalls selling autumn treats, warm bread, roasted chestnuts, pies, and, of course, mugs of hot cider. Children ran through the square, playing games like apple bobbing and sack races, while the adults danced to lively folk music. The entire village was decorated with garlands of leaves, and the air was filled with laughter, music, and the cozy scent of cider. One year, as the festival was in full swing, a traveler arrived from a distant village. She had heard of the magic cider of Maplewood and had come to see if the tales were true. She tasted the cider, her face lighting up with wonder as she felt the warmth and comfort it brought. "It tastes like the memories of every autumn I've ever known," she said. From that year on, more travelers came to Maplewood, each leaving with a story of warmth and kindness to share. The heart tree became the heart of the village, not just in name but in spirit. Over time, more legends and stories grew around it. Some said that the tree could hear the whispers of those who sat beneath its branches, holding their wishes and dreams in its roots. Others claimed that on the coldest autumn nights, when the moon was full, the spirit of Elara could be seen wandering through the orchard, her golden cloak blending with the leaves, her song filling the air with magic. The elders of the village loved to share these stories with the children, who would gather around the fire with wide eyes, imagining the heart tree's roots spreading out like veins, connecting the village to a vast, hidden world of magic and mystery. As the years passed, the people of Maplewood continued to protect the heart tree, understanding that it was more than a tree, it was the spirit of their village, a link to the past and a promise for the future. They took turns tending to it, clearing away fallen branches, keeping the soil rich, and leaving small tokens of gratitude at its base, carved wooden hearts, bundles of herbs, and stones painted with symbols of thanks. One particularly harsh autumn, a young boy named Finn was chosen as the guardian of the heart tree, a tradition that had been part of Maplewood for generations. Each year, the guardian would look after the heart tree during the cider-making season, ensuring that it received respect and care. Finn was proud to be chosen, for he loved the heart tree as if it were part of his own family. He spent hours beneath its branches, listening to the wind rustling through its leaves, feeling the comforting roughness of its bark. One cold night, as Finn sat alone by the heart tree, he thought he heard a voice. It was soft, almost like a whisper, carried by the gentle breeze. "Thank you, Finn," the voice seemed to say, so faint he thought it might be a trick of the wind. But he knew, deep in his heart, that it was the spirit of Elara, watching over him and the village. He smiled, feeling a warmth that carried him through the chill of the autumn night. From that day on, Finn took his role even more seriously, feeling honored to protect the heart tree, knowing that he was guarding not just a tree but the legacy of Elara and the magic she had left behind. In Maplewood, the first frost was a sign that the cider-making season was coming to an end, and it was celebrated with a grand harvest feast. Villagers gathered in the square, bringing dishes they had prepared from the fruits of the season, pumpkin pies, spiced breads, roasted squash, and honey-glazed apples. The highlight of the feast was, of course, the cider, which was poured generously into mugs and shared by everyone. During the harvest feast, the villagers would take turns telling stories about the heart tree in Elara, each family adding its own unique tale or memory. Some spoke of Elara appearing in dreams, offering words of wisdom, while others swore they'd seen her in the mist on early mornings, her golden cloak blending with the leaves. One year, an elderly woman named Agnes shared a story that had everyone captivated. She spoke of a time when she was a young girl and had fallen ill just before the harvest feast. Her family had been worried, for she was too weak to leave her bed, and they feared she would miss the celebrations. But on the night of the feast, Agnes claimed to have seen a figure outside her window, a woman cloaked in gold, her face kind and radiant. The woman had whispered words of comfort to Agnes and had placed a hand on her forehead, filling her with warmth and strength. The next morning, Agnes had woken up feeling strong enough to join the feast, her illness gone as if by magic. The villagers listened with rapt attention, and Agnes finished her story by saying, "Elara's spirit lives in this valley. She watches over us all, just as we watch over the heart tree." One of the most beloved parts of the cider festival was the lantern walk. As twilight deepened into night, each family would light a lantern and gather at the base of the heart tree. The lanterns filled the village with a warm, flickering glow, casting a magical light across the branches of the ancient tree. Before the walk began, the villagers would each hold a small stone they had painted earlier in the week, called a wishing stone. Each stone was decorated with symbols of hope, love, or gratitude, and the villagers believed that by placing it at the base of the heart tree, their wishes would be heard. Lila, a curious young girl, loved this tradition more than anything. Every year, she painted her wishing stone with a heart and a tiny star, symbols of her love for Maplewood and her dreams of adventures yet to come. She would whisper her wish to the stone before placing it at the base of the heart tree, imagining that the tree's roots would carry her dreams deep into the earth. As the villagers completed the lantern walk, they would gather around the heart tree, holding hands and singing a song that had been passed down for generations. The song was a soft, lilting tune that spoke of harvests, friendship, and the magic of the valley. Some said that on clear, starlit nights, the song could be heard drifting through the valley, carried by the wind, a reminder of the love and gratitude that bound the people of Maplewood together. It was said that Elara's spirit visited the heart tree each autumn, and there were many tales of villagers glimpsing her as the first frost settled over the valley. Some claimed they had seen her dancing in the mist, her golden cloak blending with the autumn leaves. Others spoke of dreams in which Elara appeared, offering them guidance and comfort. One such tale was told by a young woman named Mara. One cold autumn night, Mara had been returning home from the fields when she saw a figure standing beneath the heart tree. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but as she drew closer, she saw that it was a woman cloaked in leaves, her face kind and her eyes as deep as the forest itself. Elara smiled at Mara, her voice like the soft rustling of leaves. "Thank you for caring for the heart tree," she said. "Your kindness keeps its magic alive." With that, she placed a hand on the tree's bark, and a faint glow spread through its branches, lighting up the valley with a gentle, golden light. Mara watched in awe as Elara vanished into the mist, her presence lingering in the air like the last breath of autumn. The story of Maplewood cider and the magic of the heart tree continued to be told for generations, passed down from parents to children, growing richer with each retelling. The village thrived, and every autumn, people came from near and far to taste the legendary cider, to witness the magic of the lantern walk, and to leave their wishing stones at the base of the heart tree. Visitors to Maplewood often remarked on the cozy, comforting atmosphere of the village, as though they had stepped into a place where time moved a little slower, where the air was warmer and the nights brighter. They would leave with a sense of peace, carrying with them a memory of the cider's warmth, the flickering lanterns, and the kindness of the villagers. And each year, as the final mug of cider was poured and the last lantern was extinguished, the people of Maplewood would gather around the heart tree, feeling a quiet sense of gratitude for the magic that bound them together, and for the memory of Elara, who had brought warmth, friendship, and the spirit of autumn to their valley. As Maplewood continued to grow, there were whispers among the villagers of a hidden orchard deep within the forest, a secret grove where the apples grown were even more magical than those from the heart tree. They called it the Golden Orchard, and only a few had ever ventured there. It was said that the apples in this grove were as golden as the autumn sun and that anyone who tasted one would be blessed with the clearest of minds and the deepest of dreams. Legend had it that the Golden Orchard was where Elara had first discovered the magic of apples, long before she had shared her gift with the villagers. According to the old storytellers, the orchard had been hidden by Elara herself, a place where the spirits of the land could rest and gather their strength for the coming seasons. Only those with a pure heart and a deep love for the land could find the orchard, and even fewer had ever returned to tell the tale. One crisp autumn afternoon, a young woman named Ivy decided she would find the golden orchard. Ivy had always felt a deep connection to the land. She was the granddaughter of the village healer, a woman who could speak to the plants and understand their needs. Ivy spent most of her days wandering the forest, collecting herbs and listening to the language of the trees. That year, during the cider festival, Ivy had heard the elders speak of the golden orchard again. They told stories of those who had wandered there and returned with a strange glow in their eyes, a quiet wisdom in their hearts. Ivy, always the dreamer, felt the pull of adventure deep within her, and she decided it was time to discover the orchard for herself. Early the next morning, Ivy packed a small satchel with a loaf of bread, a flask of cider, and her favorite map of the valley. She said goodbye to her grandmother, promising to return before nightfall, and set off into the forest, her heart racing with anticipation. The trees here were ancient, their roots winding deep into the earth like veins of time itself. As she ventured deeper into the woods, Ivy felt a sense of peace settle over her. The forest had always felt like a second home to her, but today, there was something different, something more alive in the air. She could almost hear the whispers of the trees, guiding her along the hidden path, the wind soft and cool against her skin. Hours passed, and the sun hung low in the sky. The deeper Ivy went, the quieter the forest became, until all she could hear was the rustling of leaves and her own heartbeat. Just as she was beginning to doubt her decision, she saw something ahead of her, a glimmer of golden light filtering through the branches. She quickened her pace, heart thumping in her chest. The golden light grew brighter, and soon she found herself standing before a small clearing, surrounded by towering trees. The ground was covered in soft moss, and the air smelled of sweetness and spice. And there, in the center of the clearing, was the most extraordinary sight she had ever seen, the golden orchard. The trees in the orchard were unlike any Ivy had ever seen before. Their trunks were silver, their branches heavy with apples that gleamed like sunlight. The apples shone with a warm, golden glow, and as Ivy approached, she could hear the soft hum of magic in the air. With trembling hands, Ivy reached for the nearest apple, her fingers brushing against its smooth surface. She could feel its warmth, a magic that pulsed beneath her touch. Without hesitation, Ivy picked the apple and held it in her hands. It was heavier than she expected, and as she gazed at it, she felt a deep sense of connection to the land, as though the apple had been waiting for her all along. Before Ivy could take a bite, she felt a presence beside her, a soft, familiar voice that seemed to come from the very trees themselves. "You have found the golden orchard," the voice said, gentle and warm. Ivy's heart leapt. She recognized the voice immediately. It was Elara, the spirit of the harvest, the guardian of the heart tree. "Elara?" Ivy whispered, her voice full of wonder. "Yes, Ivy. You have a pure heart, one that listens to the land and understands its needs. The golden orchard has revealed itself to you because you are ready to receive its gift." Ivy knelt before the orchard's trees, overwhelmed by the beauty and magic around her. She had heard tales of Elara's visits, but to feel her presence here, so real, so alive, was more than Ivy had ever imagined. Elara continued, "The apples of the golden orchard are gifts, not just of knowledge, but of understanding. They give those who eat them clarity of mind, but also peace of heart. With this gift, you will be able to heal the land, to bring balance to Maplewood, and to share the wisdom of the harvest with the generations to come." Ivy's hands shook as she held the apple, its golden glow lighting her face. She thanked Elara softly, knowing in her heart that this moment would change everything. "You will know when it is time to return," Elara said, her voice fading like a gentle breeze. "Carry the gift of the golden orchard with you always, Ivy, and remember that you are part of something much larger, something magical and timeless." And with that, Elara's presence disappeared, leaving Ivy alone in the orchard, her heart full of gratitude. As Ivy made her way back to Maplewood, the world around her seemed to shine with new light. She had found the golden orchard, and with it, a piece of herself that she had never known. The apple she carried in her hand had filled her with a sense of purpose and peace, and she knew that the magic of the orchard would stay with her forever. When she returned to the village, Ivy found her grandmother waiting for her. Her grandmother's eyes twinkled as Ivy approached, and without a word, Ivy handed her the golden apple. The older woman took it gently, her hands trembling as she felt the magic within it. "You found it," her grandmother said softly, a smile playing on her lips. "The golden orchard. Elara's blessing is with you now, my dear." Ivy nodded, feeling the weight of the gift in her hands. She was ready to share it with the village, to help the land heal and grow, just as Elara had promised. The following year, as the cider-making season began, Ivy became more involved than ever. She used the wisdom she had gained from the golden orchard to help the village, tending to the apple trees with a deeper understanding of their needs. The cider they made that year was more magical than ever, its flavor richer, its warmth deeper, and its ability to bring people together even stronger. As the seasons changed, Ivy's connection to the land and the heart tree grew stronger. She often visited the golden orchard, where she found herself in deep conversation with the spirits of the forest and the land. The orchard had revealed to her not only the magic of the apples but the deeper, quieter magic that resided in every leaf, every root, and every gust of wind that passed through the valley. And so, a new tradition began in Maplewood. Every year, as part of the cider festival, the villagers would gather to not only make cider but to share the wisdom of the harvest. Ivy, now a respected elder in the village, would tell the story of the golden orchard, of Elara's gift, and of the deeper magic that connected them all to the land. Each year, the villagers would visit the orchard, leaving offerings of apples and leaves beneath the trees, thanking them for their bounty. The heart tree and the golden orchard became symbols of the bond between the village and the land, a reminder of the magic that flowed through Maplewood, through the cider, and through every heart that called the village home. And as the years passed, the magic of the heart tree, the golden orchard, and Elara's spirit continued to watch over the people of Maplewood, ensuring that the warmth of autumn, the spirit of gratitude, and the comfort of cider would never fade. As the last of the lanterns flicker out and the moon rises high over Maplewood, remember that the magic of autumn, of gratitude, and of community lives on in every moment. Like the apple cider shared with friends and family, may you carry the warmth of these tales in your heart, and may the magic of the heart tree and the golden orchard visit you in your dreams. Good night, dear listener. Sleep well, surrounded by the warmth of autumn and the soft glow of golden apples.